Welcome to the Fluffy Cow Studios. This is Deanna. Let's get right into what we're going to do today. Today we are going to start with a board that is 20 inches long, 6.5 inches wide, and it is a 1/2 inch thick. We are going to drill 3 1/4 inch holes. And I've measured my cans where my cans were going, so I would know where to put the holes. We have a dowel that we're going to be putting in. These dowels are 1/4 inch. We have a 10 1/4 inch dowel. I'm gluing in an 8 3/4 inch dowel, and now I'm gluing in a 6 1/4 inch dowel. Once they get done and dry, I'm going to take them outside and I'm going to spray paint them a matte black. I'm going to spray paint 12 cans, 4 red, 4 white, and 4 blue. These are tuna fish cans you can use, but I am using cat food cans because I have tons of them. I'm also going to drill a 1/4 inch hole through each one of the cans. I will then be taking some E6000 and I'm going to glue these cans to each other, but I'm going to take them down the dowel, stick the dowel through the hole and glue them to the next one down. The first one will have 5 cans, the second one will have 4, and the third one will have 3 cans. We're making some firecrackers or fireworks. And anytime I think about fireworks, I think of my dad. My dad used to play tricks on everybody, and he loved firecrackers. He was in school one day, and he put a huge, one of those long burning fuses on his firecracker, and he lit it off. Then he went to class. Sitting in class, there was this humongous boom that went through the halls. It was the firecracker, but it echoed so much that it sounded like a bomb going off. Startled everyone, including himself, because he didn't think it was going to be so loud. The principal comes into the classroom and before he could say anything, the teacher says, "It's not him. He was sitting here the whole time. I thought it was him too, but it wasn't. He was sitting here when it went off." So the principal believed the teacher and walked out, and they never did find out who did it. Well, pretty much everybody knew who did it but the principal and the teacher. I'm just going to continue to put E6000 on these and thread them through the dowel. We'll thread the dowel through the holes. And now I'm going to decorate some of these cans. I'm going to put some tinsel, Chanel pipe cleaner or tinsel pipe cleaner around the edges of the cans. Then I took a red tinsel. I made 2 loops and took the ends of the tinsel, wire tinsel, and I wrapped it around each one of the loops, making a bow. I made that sound more difficult than it is. Then I took some cupcake picks with flags on them, and I glued them, and I was gluing them with E6000, but I realized, these aren't going outside, so I think maybe I should have just used hot glue on them. But instead I had E6000, so I was having a little bit of trouble making them stick. Because what I did is I cut one of the flags a little short because I didn't want a big bump there where they crisscross. And then I took the other piece and I put it on the opposite side of the opposite flag. Now I'm making a bow the same way, making 2 loops, taking the ends, looping it around, cutting off the ends. Now I'm going to take some jute rope and I'm going to rope it around twice, and then I will be tying a knot, kind of helping to hold those flags down. And while I'm waiting for the glue gun to get hot, I'm going to put some stickers on the white, or on the little can. I'm using red and blue on them. I'm using white on the blue on the tallest one. These came from Hobby Lobby, and they're felt, and they are very, very sticky, so I didn't need to put any other glue with them. Once the glue gets hot, I put it on the end and twist the ends, and then I thread a blue bead that I got from Dollar Tree on the end. I make a knot, then I glue it so it won't ravel the knot, and then I clip it off, the rest off. I do the same thing on the other. I put a little bit of glue on the end, twist it around in my fingers till it's got a point. Then I thread one of those blue beads through the rope, or I thread the rope through the bead, and then I make a knot, then I trim it off, and then I glue it so that it will not unravel and it will hold. And there we have some little beads. And then, I don't know where this red came from. I think I was going to put a red one as well on, but instead I just take that blue bow I made and I put it on the top of that jute. Now I'm going to take some white paint, just white acrylic, and I'm going to dry brush with a chip brush. I'm going to dry brush the white on that board. I'm just going to go all on the top and on the sides. I'm not going to worry about the bottom, just the top and the sides. And if I was wise, I would have done this first, but I'm not wise, so it wasn't that bad and it didn't turn out bad. It's just it would have been easier, probably less time consuming. Once we get the painted done, we are going to work on some cows. Now we're going to make two cows this time, and I'm going to make one standing and one sitting so I can show you how to do both. Oh, wait a minute. I lied. Before we do our cows, we got to do our fireworks. We've got to put the pizzazz on. So then I'm going to make these. I cut off the bendy part of the straw, took a handful of them, then I put a zip tie, a plastic zip tie on them. Then I took my pliers and I pulled it really tight, and then they kind of spread out. If it wasn't what I wanted, then I just kind of took my fingers and messed with it to get it where I wanted. And I did that with all three. I'm going to show you here. I'm just trimming off the tops where they bend, and then I'm going to wrap them around again. I'm going to take them in my hand, gather them up, put a zip tie on them. And this was kind of a short zip tie, so I didn't get quite as good of effect as I would have gotten with the longer ones a little bit. So then I flipped them. That one turned out a little bit better. And then I did that with all three. Then I took them outside and painted them, spray painted them with a chrome spray paint. I then took my hot glue gun and some jute, wrapped it around a few times the on that zip tie, and then I took the rest and I glued the zip tie to the dowel, and then I just wrapped my jute around and around and around that dowel until I got them all the way down. I did that with all three of them, of course. Now we're going to do the cows. The first cow we're going to do a sitting cow. We're going to have a 3 inch for the body and a 3.5 inch for the head. And then we are going to do 3 inch for the legs, but we'll be cutting some of them off on the front. Now I took a 1/2 inch pool noodle, cut a little bit out, and I'm gluing the ends together. And then I'm going to take that pool noodle, and I would have done this. This is the correct way to do it. Then I would take that pool noodle, draw, use it for a template and draw on some foam, craft foam, and I would cut the foam out. But as you see, I kind of screwed up, didn't do that. Right here, we are going to glue the head onto the body, and I guess they were both 3 inches. I lied, I am sorry. The body is 3 inches and the head is 3 inches. And then I'm going to take a little E6000 just to put along the edge there, just to kind of help hold it. Once it sets up a little bit, it'll hold more permanent than the hot glue. And then I take a are they called skewers? That I got from Hobby Lobby, and these ones are just a little thicker than the ones at Dollar Store. And I pushed it down in through the foam so it would hold. Now I'm using felt on these, and I'm took an inch strip, and I think it was an inch by 3 inches or 3.5 inches. I think it was 3.5 inches. And I had a little left, so I either cut it off or just folded it over and glued it. Then I took a 1 inch by 1 inch square of that felt, and I glued it to the bottom. Then I took and cut all the excess off, and I did that on all 4 of those legs. Again, I just took an inch of that felt, black felt, and then I glued it on and cut the excess off. Okay, now I'm taking a 3 inch by 7.5 inches. The 7.5 inches is long. The 3 inches is um, the depth or the height. So it's 7.5 inches wide and 3 inches wide. And for the head, we are going to be using two 3.5 inch long by 3 inch wide. And for the legs, we are using a 3 inch by 3.5, 3 inch by 3.5 inch, 3.5 inch long, wide and 3 inches long. And I cut 4 of them for the legs. I cut circles and I used the foam for the circles as a template to cut the circles out. And you will need 2 on this one. I took 1/2 inch, a 1/2 inch strip by 6 inches, and I took that and I wrapped that 1/2 inch around that noodle. This is going to be the nose. You want to make sure that your fur is going out on the outside. The flat side will go towards the body of your um, cow. You want the fluffiness to come out. Now that's where I screwed up. I forgot to do this step, so I had to do it after I put the fur on, but it's easier or better if you do it before. Once I get it to the size I want it, then I'm going to glue it on. Normally, I would glue it on before I put the fur on, but like I said, I was a little tipsy or a little asleep or something when I did this. I'm going to glue that on, then I'm going to glue the other half on. Then I'm going to glue it on to the head of our cow. We want it kind of low towards the body. We want it sitting in the front. Okay, I'm going to take the edges of that fur so it's not sticking up. I want it to be stuck all the way around. Now I'm going to go to the halfway mark of the head, and I want the fur going towards me. And I'm going to put the fur on, glue it down. When I get to the nose, I'm going to cut a strip, and I'm going to take that strip and glue it to the side of the nose, that space between the side where the head is. We're going to glue that. Then we'll do the same with the other side. We'll cut it, cut a strip, and glue it down. I got this fur off of Temu and I do not like it. My other furs came from Amazon and they're much better quality. And so I'm going to take the excess and I'm going to cut it off. And when you're cutting these, make sure you cut on the back side and not the front because you don't want to cut the fur off. If you do, it will be choppy and it will look choppy. You won't have your fur. Then I took the second piece of that 3" by 3.5" long. You want the fur again to go down towards the bottom. You want then when you get to your nose, or to the end, you'll cut that strip and take it on down. Okay, now I'm going to take 3" by 7" strip. I'm going to make sure that the fur is going down towards the bottom of the cow. I'm going to take the hot glue and just glue it all the way down. I didn't cut the excess off of the back of the fur for the head because this isn't very good fur, and I figured it wouldn't matter if it was a little extra furry. And I just did that until I got to the point where I started. Then when I got to the point where I started, I simply cut the excess off, and right where that seam is, I took some glue, dabbed it down, and then pushed the hair together so you couldn't see where the seam was. And then I glued the back of the hair down. Okay, now I'm going to just glue down the edges. Now I'm going to take one of those circles that we cut out, and I'm going to glue it to one side of the face, the head. Once I get it glued down, and I have a seam, I'm going to take and I'm going to glue my hair together so that you can't see that seam. And I will do the same with the other side. Okay, I am going to take some glue, glue the other circle down. When I get the seam done, I'm going to take the hair or the glue, glue the hair together. I'm going to just trim off some excess glue that I have there. Now I'm going to do the legs. I'm going to take the 3.5 inch by 3 inch fur and I'm going to glue it down. Same way I did the others. Make sure the fur is going down towards the hoof. And I'm just going to glue that all the way around. Once I get to where I met up, I'm going to cut the excess off. And then I will take the bead of glue and glue the fur together so you can't see it. Then I'm going to take some skewers again from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to glue them inside the hole of that foam curler that we used. It was a foam curler with the wires in. I took the wire out and I put the foam, used the foam for the legs. Now, so what I'm doing is I'm punching a hole, and these holes are really, really hard to find once you punch the hole in them. So I usually leave my knife in, and then I stick my leg in, and then I glue them good. And then you have a better hold, because if you just glue it to the fur, it's going to be really wobbly and unsettled. And I'm going to do the same thing with the hind legs. On those front legs, I kind of cut an angle. I cut it in an angle on the top so that it would fit against the side better. And you can just kind of take them and adjust the legs. I think I ended up cutting a little bit off, but if you just take and cut it at an angle and see where it fits best, you know. I don't think there was a whole inch that I took off. Might have been a half inch. I did the same thing with this leg. I stuck a knife in it, punched a hole in it, and then I pulled it, put the leg in, but I just brought the little bit of the wood out, the skewer out, so I could glue it and then push it back in. And then I just kind of glued around the edge of that foam curler. Did the same thing with this. Like now I'm just kind of giving it a combing its hair because this is really rough looking fur and it's way out of control, even for a furry car, a fluffy cow. Okay, now for the ears. I'm taking that foam again and I'm taking the pattern that I used to make it before is what I did is I took a piece of paper, cut a shape of a leaf out, folded it, cut the shape of a leaf out so it would be unison in shape. And I also did the same for the ears, and I think they were about 2.25 inches long and about 1.25 inch wide at the widest part of it. Then I traced it on to the foam, craft foam, and this is a tan. And then I just glued them on to the back of the ears to the unfluffy side of the ears. Then I took my skewer and I took my glue and I glued the skewer onto the ears, and then I put some on the edges and squoze them with my fingers. Then I did the same thing with the knife to puncher a hole in to put them in. Again, gonna glue the ear onto the foam onto the fur. Then I'm going to take a skewer and glue it down. And I'm going to put glue on the sides of all down the side of that, and then I'm just going to hold it till it sets, get my knife, punch a hole, and then put my skewer in and glue it down. And voila, we have one fluffy cow, minus its little horns. And you don't have to put horns on them if you don't want to. However, these ones I am. And I'm doing it so I can show you how. Now, the last video I did, I used polymer clay to make the horns. But this time we're going to be making or using Mod Podge. We're going to Mod Podge. I took a piece of wire, bended it how I wanted it bended, figured out about how long I wanted it and everything. And then I took some paper, some copy paper, and I cut them in about 1/2 inch strips. I found maybe even littler, maybe they're a 1/4 inch. I found that the slimmer kind does better. And then after I got it hot glued just so it holds, then I start putting Mod Podge on that paper and wrapping it around and around and around. And I just keep putting some Mod Podge on. And then I'll do a few things, and then I will Mod Podge a few twists. Then I'll Mod Podge where over the top of that I've already done. And I will just keep doing that and leave about 1 inch at the very end of the wire so that I can have room to push it in to glue it in my cow. Now, you want to start thin and make it a little fatter as you go down so it's thicker on the ends towards where it comes out of his head. I let this dry. I did 2 of them for this cow. I let them dry, and then I painted them with a cinnamon brown acrylic paint. And it took me 2 or 3 coats because this cinnamon tends to be a little bit waterlogged for some reason. And so it's a little thinner. So I did about 3 coats on it. And I also then, when it dried, did the tip in black. I'm just kind of trying to thicken up that end there. I think that's the last piece I put on this one. You want to make sure that both horns are the same length and the same shape as each other. Unless you wanted to make a crazy cow, and I guess you could make your own horns however you want, which might be kind of fun. Maybe I'll do that. My neighbor is mowing his lawn. I really hope you cannot hear that. Okay, when I get that done, I am going to put Mod Podge over the top, just a really thick coat. And I actually let that dry, and then I did another coat over the top, just to make it more smooth. Okay, um, our second cow is going to be standing up. We're creating 4 legs, 2 inches high, and then I cut that foam in 2 inches, and then I cut it in half. And I did 2 of them like that, so there ended up being 4 little legs. And I took a skewer, I glued it into that on that foam, and then I took some glue, hot glue, and some masking tape to tape it together so that it would be round like a leg. And I did that on all four of them. Okay, now I have, now on this one, because I've done other cows, I just kind of sped it up so you didn't have to look so long. So we're doing the nose and we're doing it the same way we did the other one. Same sizes and everything. The only thing is I screwed up and put the nose on the wrong way and my fur on the wrong way, one or the other. It still worked out, but you're much better if you put your fur going outside towards the cow's nose rather than towards his body. Okay, now we're doing the fur, same measurements. This is his head, so it's going to be the same measurements as the last cow. Now this fur came from Amazon and it's much better, and you can tell that it's a much better quality. Now I'm going to take it down the sides, my strips, cut my strips and take it down the sides. Then I'm going to cut off the excess. And then I'm going to kind of glue it down so that it kind of covers up. Now we're going to do the back part of the head, doing the same thing, putting it on, gluing it down. When we make it to the other side, okay, we want to cut it again and finish taking them around. Okay, now we're just gluing the ends of everything down. Okay, this is the body. Now, I made the body 3 inches long, but if I was you, I'd probably do it 4 inches. And it was a 7.5 inch long. And so it would be 7.5 inches long, wide, sorry, 7.5 inches wide and 3 inches long. But if you're doing 4 inches, do 4 inches long. And I would do 4 inches at least. Okay, now here you're going to use 4 of those circles that we cut out that go on the side of the heads, only this one's going on his rump end and the other one is going on his chest end. And then we'll cut 2 more for the sides of his face or his head. I don't know what happened here. Okay. Now I'm making the hoofs. I put them on the same. Geez, I really skipped ahead. I don't know what happened because I missed the part with his legs. Anyway, the legs are done the same way as the other cows, only I think the measurements is 2 inches by 3.5 or 4.5 inches for long, wide, and 2 inches for the legs, the height of the legs. Okay, now here I'm taking a 1/2 inch. You know how we did the legs? I'm doing the same thing on the feet, only they're 1/2 inches. And I took the 1/2 inch, cut the foam in half, glued it together. And it kind of, when it finished, it ended up with the 2 little pointy parts of the toe-like things. And I took foam, craft foam, black, copied the pictures. It almost looks like a heart when you get it, when you're drawing the thing. I took the foam noodle and I traced the pattern out for my feet. Like I said, it almost looks like a heart. And then I took a 1/2 inch of the foam, craft foam, and glued it all around. And then I'm just trimming up the fur right here. And then I will glue the foot on. And I should have done it the other way. I did it wrong. You see, I did it wrong. The foot needs to go with the toes forward and with the foam on the front or on the upside because we're going to be gluing this down. Now I did that with all four legs and now I'm just giving him a little haircut and combing him up. Now I'm going to put the horns in after I got them painted and everything into this cow. Again, punching the hole in, putting the horn in and then gluing it in. I also put an eye in. I punched a hole where I wanted the eye. I used a little eye that I had from Timu, and then I put it in, put a little glue on it just to hold it safe, make sure it was safe, and put it in. And I did that on both cows. Now I'm just drawing on the face with a black Sharpie. Now if you have a pen, an acrylic paint pen, that would work just as well. I'm just trying to show you different ways you can make these cows. Okay, now I'm going to glue the first cow down with some E6000 and with some hot glue. I'll try and put the dimensions of all these things in the description below. Then I took one of those Mardi Gras beads, but these ones are red and silver and blue, and I'm taking a blue one, and I'm gonna cut it and fit it, and then I'm gonna glue it back together. So our little girl cow has a necklace. I'm gonna take one of those little cupcake clips. I think I stuck one in there. Maybe I lied. Maybe I didn't. Okay, now I'm going to take these little balls I had left over from the hats we made last week. I had a whole bunch of these little balls that I had left over from Christmas when I made a whole bunch of those little hats. They were snowman hats. This one last one we were Uncle Sam hats. And I had some red and silver and blue ones left over, so I am using them. I'm just covering up the ends where you hook them and hang them onto your tree. There you can see I put a little flag on the cow. And I'm just gluing down some scenery or some greenery. I'm just doing this in fast mode because, there's no really rhyme and reason. Whatever looks good to you. And so that's how I'm decorating, what looks good to me. And now I'm gonna, I put some flowers on the top of the cow as well, and you'll see that at the end. Right now I'm going to be painting this I think it's like a banana cream, and but any cream color or light yellow would do. Even a white would be okay. And then I will paint the tips of them black. And I'm just sticking them in my foam to half of a foam pull noodle so that it holds them up while they're drying. You can do both of them. I hope I haven't confused you too much, especially with speeding it up. I don't know what happened to the part where I put my legs on my cow. Okay, after I glued him down and I put some more decorations up, I made some stars I took a wooden star that I got from Hobby Lobby that's about 3 inches, and I used it for a template and cut some 2 stars, well, actually 8 stars out. And then I hot glued the stick, the skewer to the cardboard, and then I glued the cardboard down around. is. So there's two pieces of cardboard. Now I made four of these. I used for the bottom, I used a 2-inch cool noodle, and then I Mod Podged on the scrapbook paper, and then I put foam stars on the other stars after I painted them. I painted them black, then dry brushed them red, white, and blue. I'm sorry, I dropped my mic. Okay, and then as you can see them here, the little felt stars are on. I put different sizes on them stars, and I painted the sticks. I painted them first black, and I did red, white, and blue. The hat didn't really glue very well onto with the hot glue onto the furry cow because it's plastic. I got that from Dollar Tree, and so I just put pins in it, straight pins, and pinned it down. And this is the finished project. Now you know how to make a cat sitting fluffy cow and a standing fluffy cow. And you can make some fireworks out of your old tuna cans. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. And if you would like to see more of the things we make here, then hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for dropping in. I truly appreciate you. And I hope that your day is wonderful and that you enjoy it very much. Happy trails, y'all.